welcome to Come Report Live, May 28th edition with John Riasti. Sorry to change your name there, John.
No problem.
He's an American banker. He's become our regular guest on Thursdays, and he's our insider in Washington, so he gives us a bunch of good stuff. We love your questions. You know how to download the certificates. Let's go right to the poll questions. Lenders must initially report the PPP loans on their 1502 reports by May 29th, then on a monthly basis. True or false? Yeah, I don't think. Yeah, that's true. We didn't fool anybody on that one. Joseph, did we ask the question is if they've completed the 1502 report?
No.
Okay, we'll do that tomorrow. We'll do that tomorrow. Number 2, do you plan on selling your PPP loans? There's several entities out there that are willing to buy the loans, obviously at some sort of discount, but the advantage is that you don't have to service them. So I'm just curious how many people are thinking about it. Okay, fair enough. I think that's fine. And do you utilize loan service providers for any of your lending functions? Okay, I thought it may have been, I guess that's about right. That seems about right. Very good. Thank you very much for answering that. John, there's a bunch of legislation going on in Washington. Give us an update.
Well, the House is sort of passing its overhaul of the PPP Act, and it is in just the final last stages of voting. That will pass. But it's now a question of can it be reconciled with the Senate version that passed? I think it was just last week. And there are some significant differences. The House bill has a lot of features that weren't included in the Senate bill. A number of senators have indicated that they can't support everything that's in the House bill. There is broad agreement on a lot of the things that PPP lenders and borrowers would like to see happen. The adjustment or elimination of the 75-25 rule and an extension of the coverage period. But it's a question now of can these two bills be reconciled? Will there have to be another bill put forward that everyone can vote on and then agree on that would go to President Trump? So I think the upshot is there's still a lot of work to be done, that this is by no means the sort of, final stages.
What provisions is the Senate balking at?
They didn't necessarily, what I read, they didn't necessarily say, but I the House bill, one of the things that they did that I don't think is in the Senate bill is an extension of the duration, making the loans longer in duration, 5 years in duration. The Senate bill, they did, it was more limited, although it had some interesting features. It would allow businesses to spend money on, on things, forgivable money, I should say, on expenses that weren't mentioned in the original bill. That is, things like personal protection equipment, things. I would imagine this would be very big for restaurants, but changes to their drive-through, so to make the employees safer, to protect them, from any type of contact between customers. A lot of expenses like that, would be forgivable on top of obviously payroll and some of the other basic expenses. But it's just a question now of can they agree on at least a package of reforms? Can they get in there that everybody has agreed to, and can they massage the differences on the other things? But I'm afraid what I have read, and my contact with members of Congress is limited, is just that the Senate objects to the House bill, and that the objections are deep enough that it's going to take some time to work it all out. That we're not in the home.
I appreciate your insights on that. However, on a scale of 1 to 100, I imagine this is pretty low on the totem pole of major concerns. I assume they'll be able to work it out quickly, John?
I think so. I think it will be worked out because there's enough agreement and enough interest by some of the major players on both sides that this will be worked out. PPP is not dominating the news like it was in April and the first part of this month, but it's still an important program, and there's still momentum to make changes and improvements to the bill. So I do think it will be worked out. This won't be as quickly perhaps as some would have hoped.
Katie, you're following this also. The vote is today. What do you see from your perch?
It looks like it is going to pass. I'm just kind of watching it now. They're down to 14 votes left, and I believe there's only one nay so far, so it's definitely passing.
Wow.
Like John was saying, though, I don't know if this is going to go as fast through the Senate as some of the other bills that we've been talking about over the past couple of weeks. This just isn't as high of a priority as some of the others. But they are throwing a lot of these bills out there. A lot of them have the same kinds of elements to them, just worded slightly different. So I think something along the lines of the Paycheck Protection Flexibility Act will get passed. I don't know if it's going to be particularly this exact bill, but it looks like something is going to pass.
Great. Awesome. What else are you working on, John?
I've been diverted a little bit this week from Paycheck Protection. Yesterday, actually it was the day before yesterday, I'm sorry, the NCUA filed their response to ABA's...
Let me interrupt. What is the NCUA?
Sure. National Credit Union Administration. And I should have prefaced that by saying they have been locked in a legal battle with the American Bankers Association over a field of membership rule that they revised back in 2016, in October of 2016, and it made its way into the courts, and now it has wound its way up to the doorstep of the United States Supreme Court. ABA has sued challenging this rule, and they won at the district court level. That ruling was reversed by the District of Columbia Appeals Court, and now they're trying to move on to the Supreme Court. They filed a petition. It's called a writ of certiorari, and what NCUA filed just the other day, 2 days ago, was their response to that. And now ABA has about roughly a week or 10 days to rebut that if they choose, and then the justices would make a decision on whether to hear the case. They're not going to make a decision. They're not at the stage of certainly voting on the merits, but just whether to hear the case.
John,
and four of them.
Go ahead, finish. I'm sorry.
I was just going to say it takes only four to vote to hear a case. Obviously, five for one side or the other to win, but four just to have the case heard.
John, I'm a community banker in Texas. Why is this important to me?
It may or may not, based on the level of competition you get from the local credit unions down there. If you have some large active credit unions, the rule NCUA passed would make it easier for them to expand their fields of membership. And I don't necessarily want to get into the details of how that would happen, but it would make it easier for them to expand, perhaps significantly their fields of membership, which would make the competition for the community banks that much tougher. Obviously NCUA feels and asserts that they have every right to do this, and now the appeals court has agreed with them, and we'll see what happens at the Supreme Court level.
John, you may not know the answer to this, but I'm going to ask you anyway. We have a number of credit unions that listen into this program and do make SBA loans. Is there still a cap on credit unions on the amount of loans that they can put in their portfolio for commercial lending? Is that still
There is still an overall cap. However, one of the fields that is exempted from that cap is the guaranteed portion of a 7A loan. So that makes it easier for them to make 7A loans, but the non-guaranteed portion is not exempt. So, they have this cap, which is 12.25% generally of their total assets.
And I'm going to go completely off topic because you and I haven't talked about this in a while. Where are we with allowing non-bank lenders, these fintech lenders, to make SBA loans? Do we know?
As of about 2 weeks ago, the last time I was talking to one of the fintech lenders and one of them that has applied to be a regular 7A lender. They are, as with many fintechs, they are PPP lenders, but they're not approved to do regular 7A loans. They're saying, SBA will approve them in the state to make loans in the state where they are headquartered, but not beyond that.
Interesting.
And obviously for a lot of the fintech lenders, that's
we haven't covered this story. I need to do a better job on doing some more research and covering it because that. Thank you for that background because I did not know that, and we will delve into it more. Hey, you wrote an interesting article, or you're researching an interesting article about this Michigan thing. Tell us about the case study, John.
It's an interesting thing. It's not once again, it's not directly PPP related, but it's sort of pandemic and virus related. The bank, University Bank in Ann Arbor, which is the home of the University of Michigan, hence the name, I guess.
Go Blue.
Go Blue. They had been, they have been, historically a significant mortgage lender. They have a retail network of in-house lenders who originate loans for them, and they wanted to develop an outside network. They call it a wholesale network of third-party loan officers, independent loan officers, who would also submit loans to the bank. But they would, these lenders originate outside the bank. And they did. It was successful. They saw a significant increase in volume. But what happened, the twin problems they ran into is, number one, the pandemic and the effect on the economy, which for them played out in lower rates and a big surge of business from both of their channels, in-house and now this wholesale channel, and the health and distancing regulations, which are very severe and strict, as everybody knows in Michigan, which made it difficult for them to hire. So they couldn't hire the back office they needed to support the big increase they're seeing in volume, and they felt they had to choose. They felt they had to choose between one or the other because they couldn't do both.
What was their main challenge that they weren't able to solve?
The main challenge was in a dispersed situation where almost all of their employees are working from home, including all of their HR people, the people who would handle hiring and training. They didn't feel comfortable in that kind of situation where everybody would be dispersed in their own home, hiring new employees, meeting them, sort of vetting them, bringing them on, and then training them. And they just didn't feel up to that task. This is a small bank, I should say. It's not a large bank with thousands of employees. It is, it's a sizable community bank, but it is a community bank, and they felt that was, too high a hurdle for them. The prospect of
that's an interesting story. I know there's a lot of other issues in here, security, stuff going into people's houses, learning the culture. entity, every bank, all our companies have their own culture. And to be successful, you need to know what the culture is. So I'm very fascinated by these type of stories.
Right. Well, I appreciate that, and I agree with you, Bob. It's hard to transmit a culture when everybody's sitting in their own house in front of their computer trying to work that way. So
yeah,
I guess that's what the.
Great. Katie, what's going on with the research status deadline for Paycheck Protection, which is midnight tonight?
Right, and that's Eastern time, so it is a little bit earlier here. If you're on the West Coast, you need to get on this. Most of you probably already know how to do this. The original deadline was last week, so they did extend that. But if you don't, there's step-by-step order on how you do that. You log into the CAFS. You search in your E-Tran for research status loans. And if you have any, you should go check them, see if there's any problems. Most of the time, if they're on research status, there is some kind of error. And it could be a small error. Maybe you missed a number on an address, something like that that's just not matching up. So that needs to be fixed by 8 o'clock tonight Eastern.
SBA has not, the threat is SBA will cancel the loan. They're not saying they will, but that's the threat. So let's get that. Hey, John, there's 2 other legislation packages in Congress that affect us, the HEROES Act and another one. Can you bring us up to date on those real quick?
Well, I think the problem with the HEROES Act is there's a lot of very good material, if I can call it that, but a lot of very good content that people supported connected to PPP, but there's so much else that the House put in there that the Senate doesn't look like they can support, and that it just doesn't look like that's going forward. And I think that's the reason this standalone bill was put forward, is that just the HEROES Act is not not moving anywhere.
Right,
so,
right. Very good.
So that as we discussed, run into its own set of problems, but those problems are fixable and will be fixed, I think.
Great. We have a couple webinars coming up. Lance is doing one in 45 minutes on preparing the 1502 report. Just send an email to joseph@colemanreport.com and we can sign you up late and we'll take care of all the paperwork. Tomorrow we're doing National Rurals Roundtable. That is a free offering. And the USDA National Office will be participating in that. And USDA has $1 billion to fund rural America. So, and I confess I don't know much about that, so I'm going to be very interested in that. Couple of questions real quick. And let's see. Corey asked, do you think the May 29th report will count as the month-end May report? I don't see why not. Let's see. Saturday would be the 30th, Sunday 31st. Yeah, that'll count as the year-end report. Brian, what if we can't figure out why a loan is in research status? What should we do? That's an excellent question, Brian. Lance could answer that, but I would send an email to the appropriate office on that and ask them for that. But I would certainly document that you're trying to solve it. And I would send an email to SBA on that. And Jackie asked, we had one that the customer had gotten 2 PPP loans. Not sure how that happened, but that will also show up in the research info. So I understand the problems with that is that you may not know what the issue is. So I would simply document it and shoot an email over to SBA. John, as always, I appreciate your insights. Stay healthy, stay safe. And are you still looking beginning of January to go back to your culture?
That's what we're told. So early next year we will be back in an office.
But are you Uncle John to all the preschool kids? Are you
something like that? But thank God most of them are asleep right now. Yeah.
Very good. Katie, as always, good to see you. Thank you all very much. We'll talk to you tomorrow. Thanks.